Hey y'all, welcome to Kansas City Business Cast. This will be episode 32. Technically, really appreciate everybody's engagement. It's been awesome. We've had so many new followers, subscribers, people kind of join what we call the movement here. Just as a reminder, this is my shameless plug for the podcast. We still have these Kansas City Chiefs hologram stickers ready. Not made in partnership with the NFL or the Chiefs, but I did use their exact hex color codes for the sticker. And then we also have these new keychains with the electric lime green logo. All right, now that I got the spam out of the way, my guest today is awesome. And I know that I say that about everyone, but I have known Emily since I began my journey as an entrepreneur and on this podcast. She's a longtime friend and a close follower of this show. Emily Linhardt from Silverstone Solutions, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Michael. It's good to be here.
So glad to have you on. We've been talking about this for a while. I know we had to get the timing right. And also, too, I think I'm glad that it took us a while to get here because the amount of progress that you've made in your business and the lessons and the reflections that you've had up to this point, I'm almost glad that now is the time that we're talking about it because as per usual, like I think every move that you've made in your personal and professional life, it has always been, iterative process. Like you learn from something and then what is the next step? But I'm glad that our listeners will get to hear that from you today. So again, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to share my story and hopefully bring some encouragement to people who are listening today.
Absolutely. So I think it's important to kind of start from the beginning to just tell us about what Silverstone Financial Solutions does. And then we'll talk a little bit about how you arrived to having your own company. And then from there, obviously, we'll unpack things and go from there.
Yeah. So Silverstone Financial Solutions, I created it about 3 years ago. I was in a place of wanting to serve more people. Had two part-time jobs at the time and had at that point a company come to me and asking to do their books. And so I'm like, okay, sure. And I ended up leaving my part-time employment with the knowledge that my employers were going to be my first clients. So they're like, we don't want to see you go, but we understand and we're excited for you. So yes, we'll sign up under you. And so I've been serving my employers / clients and then a host of other people in the last 3 years. And yeah, and I don't know if I said this already, but Silverstone Financial Solutions, we offer bookkeeping services right now. So the day-to-day data entry that is needed specifically with QuickBooks Online, we help business owners make sense of their finances and the transactions that are going in and out on a daily basis.
Absolutely. And anybody who has started their own business, 9 out of 10 probably. We never received formal training in school. Maybe some college courses on the importance of, financial consistency, bookkeeping, things of that nature. But it quickly becomes, especially for the growing business owner, a complete pain to try and manage that. And usually I think what's happened, I know in my own journey and in Stephanie's journey, and then also a lot of people in our network that we know, right? They figure it out when they get to tax season and they've got to file their taxes and it's their first time, doing it as a sole proprietor or an LLC, or, maybe they haven't even kept their receipts. They don't have software, things like that. But usually that's really a reality check for a lot of people. So I guess on that subject too, what's maybe an ideal space if somebody's in their business right now to kind of connect with you and figure out if your bookkeeping services would be a fit for them?
I think the space that I often find people when they come to me is a place of disorganization. Is that a word?
Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe they just feel a little chaotic in their business. So oftentimes, we start out with a great business plan. We start getting sales. We start making the money, and it's fantastic. But all of a sudden, the business owner now becomes the marketing person, the salesperson, the deliverables person, the hey, I need some feedback. Let's figure out, how I'm doing, the operational aspect of it, which was a big one for me in starting up my business. And so you have all of these elements as a business owner, and unfortunately, a lot of times the financial tracking is the one that gets lost for a season. And I think there's the mindset that, we can come back to it at any point to get it, to get the transactions categorized, to get our financial reports in good order so that we can send them off to our CPA. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But over time, the longer you wait, the harder it is to track things. And so I often find people at a place where they need help. They need help tracking things. They need help understanding what they're doing. How do I categorize this specific expense? How will it, help my firm, my business, maximize tax deduction and everything. And so, yeah, they come to me honestly from a place of pain to put it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. And obviously we'll have all of your socials linked and how to work with you and interact with your services. I know that you do, consultations, and then there's different itemized services that you offer. Very curious about your origin story and how you got into doing this type of work. It's not every day that you meet somebody who, and you had one employer, but you also had other people that were kind of courting you to have you either come on board with them and help them with their books, right? So it's not every day that you're like, you know what, actually, I'll just make a business, and how about I help y'all when you need to and do that. And that was when I first sat down with you at our networking meeting, and you told me that, I just all my light bulbs started going off, and I was like, gosh, she must be really cool, first off. She also must be somebody that these people, they have just, you probably built that trust with them really, really strongly, right? How did you get into this line of work? And, that's always curious to me, like the origin story. And then some people call it a conversion story, where they say, I think I'm going to do this full time, or I'm going to make a business out of this. But where did it all kind of begin?
Well, once upon a time, no, I'm kidding. So honestly, it was my very first job. It was my very first job as a 17-year-old, and I had there was a family in our church who needed bookkeeping assistance, and so my mom had actually found out about it and had communicated with the business owner, and we discovered that a significant amount of data had been lost. And this is before iCloud. This is before anything that backups were floppy disks and CDs, maybe CDs even. And I'm not even sure if those were coming in at that point. And so I think it was a backup on a floppy disk, and they had lost 6 months worth of data. And so I ended up, learning how to do QuickBooks really fast. QuickBooks 2002. And I was told that if I could read the manual, it was not online. It was a book about that thick. If I could read the manual, understand QuickBooks Online, that they would also give me a bump in my hourly pay. And so I did. I learned the system. I learned how to put in transactions, and learned how to reconcile accounts. It was a great segue into now what has been a 15-year career. I spent a little bit of time in banking, so I have even more experience. I have experience on that side as well, kind of understanding how banking works, and that has definitely helped in my role as a bookkeeper. So, but even going slightly, because I know I've shared this before with you, this has been, I didn't realize it at the time, but finances and money has always been a passion of mine. I mean, isn't it for all of us? But specifically when it comes to tracking it, I got a workbook when I was, a freshman in high school, and it was all centered around the personal finances and learning how to learning how to track them. And I didn't know that that was going to be the catalyst for me being like, yes, this is what I want to do. And, you know, even though I've had those moments of like, is this what I'm really supposed to be doing? I've really enjoyed tracking finances, and to be able to now to use that to serve other people specifically within my company has just been just a huge blessing. So yeah. And I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think that's pretty much the origin story.
And I do recall that from our conversations that it started at an earlier age. And, you know, we've had conversations about, you know, our path. And I think, you know, often a lot of times too, I think believers like Christians, like we go like, gosh, is what I'm doing in align with God's plan? And does God, like for me, does God really want me to be in recruitment and in leadership consulting and process improvement? And if I could just start over, what would I rather be doing? And we have all these sort of like, they're almost like micro and sometimes big time existential crises.
Yeah.
That we go through. And I think, you know, something that I've noticed in you too is that you truly are a servant leader. And I know that not even just in Silverstone, like just in your meetups with people and meetups that we've had and meetups that we've had with our networking circle, you just are a person who genuinely wants to help people. Like genuinely, it does come from, it is not performative. It's you are the real deal. And I think everyone around you would say the same thing. And that's when, like, we talk about our core values as like people and as business owners and all that stuff. I've talked with you about this. Like, the core values should not be aspirational. These should not be things that like we strive to be. They are things that are actually, this is who we are. And so when we're talking about integrity is people often when they're defining it, it sounds like they're almost doing it outside of themselves, but like you are living integrity, and you actually are in a profession where integrity shows, right? Like the integrity of the books is what makes a company, you know, successful or makes them fail, right? Especially because, you know, we've got government entities that are involved. We, you know, if we've got employees, it's like we got to pay them. We owe them that. But, you know, when we're talking about you as a person, I think it really does come from the core of who you are. And so having said that, what do you think is important for people on the verge of hiring bookkeepers? People, I think, just automatically think, I need an accountant. And it's like, well, there's costs and there's what people do. Can you talk about the advantage of bookkeeping, the difference between bookkeeping and accounting if they're considering these services?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things I'll say out of the gate is bookkeeping is accounting and accounting is bookkeeping. I actually ran across that the other day on a website randomly, and I'm like, you know what? That's actually a really good way of saying it. So I do call myself a bookkeeper though, because my position as a business owner is to serve people on a transactional level in QuickBooks Online. I say QuickBooks Online because right now I really am exclusive to helping people who utilize QuickBooks Online or who want to utilize it. And so either providing one-on-one consulting or account setup for QuickBooks Online. And then if they already have an existing account, obviously I'm more than happy to help them clean it up and catch it up. But yeah, bookkeeping is going to be your daily transactional work. And for my company, we specifically do this on a weekly basis, where we catch up our clients on a weekly basis. And then we produce monthly financial reports, you know, and then help them with anything else throughout the month. So if it's payroll, if it's you know, it could be a sales tax thing. It could be something random that comes through from the government entities that they need something and we need to be able to produce it. So that's what I do in that bookkeeping field. So accounting is a little bit more of a it's the 30,000 foot view that uses an accountant will use what a bookkeeper provides and produces to help with forecasting, with budget forecasting, providing advisory services. So if, they're like, here's my numbers, please make sense of them for me. An accountant will go in and take a look at those numbers, put some formulas in there and see, okay, what is probably the easiest one would be profit margin. For me to give you an example, what is the company's profit margin? And so an accountant will go over, a business's profit margin with them and say, what, your expenses are actually exceeding your revenue. So we actually have a negative profit margin, or your profit margin's at 20%, which means that you're only receiving 20 cents for every dollar that is coming into your company as profit. So you have significant expenses. Where are those coming from? So asking the accountant uses just really probes and questions and provides the forecasting, the budgeting, in addition to a variety of consulting services with the numbers that a bookkeeper produces.
It was really important to establish, who you are, what you do, why you do what you do, and the nuance in what you do. As far as the 101 portion, I think that's great. You are really good about sharing your story. You're really good about sharing your highs and lows and everything in between. When it comes to where you're at in your business right now, let's start there. You're 3 years in. Most entrepreneurs quit at 2 years. You have gotten to this point where, you're in it and you have made progress. And so you got over a significant milestone when you got past 2 years. So when we're talking about that, what's important to you right now? Where are you at in your journey? And what would you say to folks who, or maybe they're wanting to quit, or maybe they're wanting to start over or do something else? What would you say in that regard?
So many things. I think probably the thing that where I am at is such a great question right now. I've honestly have struggled to answer it in the last couple of months. And I think it's just because we are just off the summer months. And so we are kind of getting back into the swing of things and everything. So I am in a place right now where I really have a lot of doubt on a daily basis. Let's just be real. I have a lot of doubt on a daily basis. And it is a constant choice to show up every single day and say, this is what I'm supposed to do, and this is what I'm going to do, and this is how I'm going to serve, and this is how I'm going to love my community and my fellow business owners. And I think, if anything, I'm in a place where I need to continue to plug in to community. I am so thankful for the networking group that we met in, which was Referral Madness. I'm so thankful for that networking group, to be able to continue just with relationship, to remind me of the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I think we all need that. We all need that on a daily basis. Maybe some people are fine with it every once in a blue moon, but for me, being reminded of why I'm doing and what I'm doing and why I'm doing it every single day is so important, to just remember to keep going, especially when there's a snag or there's a challenge or there's, that question that really requires a significant amount of research. And you're just like, where do I begin? And one of the things for my clients that I tell them is that if I don't know something, I will find out about it. If you have a question and I don't know that answer, we're gonna seek it out together and we're going to figure it out. So it takes a lot of it just takes a lot of energy to continue to move forward. And I think that's kind of where I'm at right now. It's just that needing to continue to have that energy and that courage to continue to move forward on a daily basis, knowing that what I am doing and how I'm serving clients matters.
I love that you mentioned community being important, and I'm not just important, but critical, like words fail to describe the importance of that. On the subject of, community, finding ways to recharge. What do you do in those moments when you feel overwhelmed, or like, you said, I have to decide to show up, which means that you're probably feeling like not showing up that day. Like some days as a business owner, I mean, it feels better to just kind of like crawl up into a ball and, grab your favorite trilogy, eat popcorn, and kind of like collapse into yourself.
Yeah.
And you gotta show up, right? And that's the thing too. I think obviously too, like I think entrepreneurship gets romanticized a lot as this, like we get to choose our own hours, all this kind of stuff. It's like, no, actually it chooses you, especially if you're not proactive about processes and things like that. And so like, what do you do? Who do you surround yourself with? And on a personal level, how do you recharge so that you can come back, with your full self or even half of yourself when you need to, like for your clients? Like, yeah, what keeps you going? How do you rejuvenate and get energized?
Yeah. Probably the first thing that I have to remember when I am in a place of just, of just not motivated, or I'm, just there's so many elements to owning a business that are overwhelming me because, I just shared that I help other people with their financial aspect. Well, I need to also do my finances. I also need to be able to create an infrastructure around my deliverables, what I can do for them, and that just can feel very overwhelming on so many ways, so many levels. So I think the big thing for me that keeps me going, that keeps me getting up and off the couch and pushing the popcorn away is love. I mean, to be perfectly frank, because I really want my clients to succeed. I really want the people that are around me, whether it is personal or professional, to succeed in life, and whatever that success looks like for them. That I can't determine that for them, but I want them to be able to flourish and to be able to make a community impact with their businesses. And that's what keeps me going. That's what keeps me going. And then honestly, when I don't have anything left, I will connect with people. That has been a huge part for me. Is I'm incredibly relational, which funny enough, for the longest time, I thought bookkeepers were not relational. I thought this industry was not a relational business, which I don't know where the mindset came from. But it is absolutely, when you are talking to people about their finances, you end up finding out way more about them. That is just absolutely, is wonderful. It's a very relational thing, and I love being able to connect with people. And so my recharge is actually texting a friend, hey, can we grab coffee? How are you doing? I like to get teased on this one. It's a good tease, but how's your soul? Like that's my favorite question. And so on a personal level, grabbing that coffee with a friend, having that soul conversation is incredibly just energizing for me. It reminds me I'm not the only one on planet Earth, and that I can pour my gifts and my love to people by giving them my time and my attention and my ability to listen to what is going on in their lives.
On that subject, what are you hearing from people as you check in with them on their soul? Business owners and not, what do you think is, what do people need to hear right now?
I think for a lot of people, and I'm right there with them. There was a popular song that came out in the late 80s, early 90s. My goodness, my timeline. And as a woman of faith, I'm very familiar with it. And it was entitled My Place in This World by Michael W. Smith. And I honestly feel like that is what still continues to be a running theme in a lot of the conversations that I have with people, business owners, friends, family, like, where do I belong and how can I contribute to this big story that we're a part of? And so that's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing just like, do I matter? Am I seen? Do these gifts that I've been given, are they going to help? Are they going to help? How can I help people with them? And so, yeah, I think a lot of the questions that I hear, especially when it comes to that soul question, it's just a lot of those thoughts are centered around identity and how and why am I here and who am I supposed to serve?
Absolutely. Gosh, how do I follow that up? That's so huge. I knew we were going to go here too in this conversation. I knew, like, as I was prepping and praying before our talk, it was like, I know, like, I've never had a conversation with you in meetups and, just quick touch bases, whatever, where, you didn't cut to the very heart of the matter. Right. And I think going to the soul and us all, wondering if we're doing the right thing, what our place in this world is, all that. Do you have any words of, I guess, advice or wisdom or courage or whatever for people who maybe they stumbled on this episode, maybe they're a friend of ours, they're listening, maybe they're one of your clients, for somebody who's not sure and doesn't have an answer to that question, like, what if there is a process, what's worked for you when you felt lost or confused, or like you don't have an answer to the question that's in front of you?
I have a tendency to think a little bit too far out in advance, always thinking about tomorrow. And I think that, and while that I think there's nothing wrong with a good 5 to 10 year plan, kudos to those who can do that. Oh my goodness. And I'm working on the 5-year one. But when it comes to, thinking about what's next, and I think especially for business owners who are constantly thinking about the future, constantly thinking about tomorrow, what do I have to do? I mean, we are attached to our calendars in so many ways. The question is, the invitation, I feel like, is actually to be very present with what is going on with you right in front of you. And so actually I don't know where the term came from, but it's a quote, and it's actually a book that was very life-changing for me, called The Next Right Thing. What is your next right thing? And if what is the next thing that you need to do right now? And it's just, I think that really kind of calms myself down in those moments and it allows me to realize that there's a person in front of me right now that needs to be cared for, or there is a job, or there is a transaction in front of me that is going to affect that person. I mean, it could be as simple as a transaction at a grocery store. How you show up to that, how you show up to that cashier really matters, and so, I don't know if that answers the question, but it's like, I think staying present is very hard and challenging for business owners, but it's so important. What do I need to do right now to make a difference right now in this very moment? Yeah, that would be my thought on that.
Absolutely. And that totally did answer my question. It was really, I guess, the heart of what I was getting at is like, what do you have to say to people who feel like they don't know the next thing? Maybe they don't want to continue, with their business or whatever. I mean, it's really easy these days too, to quit things, for the shiny object. And that's another thing I think we've talked about too. Like, I remember a conversation, we were talking about all the different types of accounting software, and you either made this point or I did, or we arrived at this conclusion, but like, we looked at, there was an influencer or somebody was like saying, try this program and try this program and try that program and try this thing and try that thing. And like all these things that could solve their problem. And I was like, or maybe you were like, one of us was like, do they actually do that? Does this person actually use 20 or 30 different plugins and add-ons? Or are they being paid? Do they get a cut of the subscription fee? And so, like, it's one of those things of like, don't do as they say. Like, the shiny object too. Where I'm going with that is like, it's really easy to quit if something's not working out. It's actually, maybe it's more easier than it's ever been in society, because there's always something else that like looks like it could solve the problem you're having now. Going back to your point of being present, if you are present and you can really stay with your problem and challenge yourself to solve it, like you said, if I don't know the answer, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to figure out the next step. But when we're going, your experience with shiny objects, let's go there, right? What are your tips for the shiny object, the next thing, or when you say the next right thing, but they're saying, the person's using that to say, oh, I can quit this and then the next right thing is in front of me. When I think in the context of what you were saying was, what's the next right thing for me and my business and the thing I have now and being present. But what is it when the next right thing is, a shiny object? A solution in disguise as a shiny object.
I think my number one tip right now is take your time. Don't implement just because they say it's going to solve that problem. There are trial periods for a reason, and to maximize those trial periods to see if it actually would contribute success to your business is going to be crucial. I mean, that's how our relationship actually began, because while we were at Referral Madness, I utilized your consulting services to help me actually, I came to you needing onboarding help. I was trying to implement this incredibly involved onboarding system, and it was going to make things look so pretty. It was going to make my contract look pretty. It was going to make my proposals look great. But it was a bear to put together, and we had talked about you potentially helping me with that. And just taking a look at the program. And then as we dove into it, we realized, actually, you really don't need this program. I mean, it looks great, but you're also paying for it on a monthly basis. You're paying for the CRM software. You're paying for the software every single month. It's going to be helpful in terms of tracking customers and everything like that, but you already have a system over here for that. And so I remember us actually writing out, that's a very big memory for me, is I told you every single software that I had been told to use, that I was using. And there were, maybe I could do the same thing within 5 of those systems, but because that system produced this particular benefit for me and this, for, being able to produce my financial reports, I was like, okay, I'll keep it. So I think we ended up I want to say I had 10, maybe more. I don't remember. I had 10 software subscriptions at that point, all kind of doing the same thing. And you were able to come in and be like, okay, does this actually work for you? Is this actually helping you?
And my approach to that too was also inspired by the type of business you're in, bookkeeping. It was, if we take an account, and it was funny because my wife and we had several subscriptions, Apple TV, the Prime. We were already really good at turning ones off and shutting things down. You talk about trials, 7-day trial, reminder at 6.5 days, shut that thing off. And I was kind of going through this inventory as well of where are my finances going? And when we did that, name everything. And what was so cool about that too, you're a bookkeeper. You were able to answer every question of every service and how much it cost. And then when you really add that up, it's wait a minute, forget the shiny object right now. I have objects, I have hostile organisms in my business right now. And you know me, I always use these really intense terms there's this thing, it's taken up this resource, it's taking that. What can we eliminate now? And then how are we maximizing what we have now before we start chasing shiny objects? So
yes.
Thank you for bringing up that history too, from what we had worked together on too. It's super helpful. What's important for your clients right now? What are kind of maybe some of their struggles?
I think we are at the time of this recording, we're very close, if not already, to the fourth quarter. And so we're always going to be looking at what does next year look like? So I just said, looking at the next right thing, but there is we actually have to also, that next right thing could be actually looking at where do we need to cultivate vision for our company, in this next year of business. What does that need to look like? So I think there's a lot of planning, a lot of budgeting happens around this time, especially if your fiscal year ends on December 31st. So that's what I'm noticing. Just even kind of making sure that everything is caught up, for my clients specifically, just making sure everything is caught up. They know and then obviously knowing those numbers will help them be able to plan out. So it's kind of a vision casting. I think we're in the season of vision casting right now. And
Absolutely.
yeah, so
Yeah, and on that subject, you mentioned earlier you were working on like a 5-year plan right now. And for Silverstone specifically, like what does the next 6 months to a year look like?
well, the next 6 months to a year looks like when I mentioned earlier that bookkeeping is accounting and accounting is bookkeeping. One of the things, especially about a remote bookkeeper like myself, like we can provide additional services. So I've been providing. I started out and really wanted to hone in on the craft of providing bookkeeping skills for my clients. That was the goal. And now to maintain relevance and to maintain and to be able to maintain a high degree of service, I'm looking at adding advisory skills. So adding advisory services is going to be a big one. And being able to help with the budgeting and the forecasting for my clients is a big one. And the other aspect is that I subcontract out my tax services to a colleague here locally. And so being able to potentially at some point offer them myself will be something that I'm looking at. So I say the next 6 months to a year, we're looking at the advisory skills and then hopefully adding the tax services at some point. Also to expanding the team. I have a contractor right now, and to be able to, like, and going back to the systems and operations aspect of a business, being able to really create the standard operating procedures for the clients that I have. Because one thing that I didn't mention at the beginning is that I am a general practitioner, so I don't have a niche at the moment. All of my experience really comes from serving service-based businesses, in addition to nonprofits, and have also worked with e-commerce clients. So I guess those are still very broad categories. So having SOPs for those clients is really crucial to being able to add people to my team so that I can be out there more. My marketing has not been the priority, which is one of the reasons why I'm glad we're having this conversation today versus when we met a year ago. It hasn't been a priority just because I have been focused on servicing my clients. So.
Absolutely. Gosh, I love it. I love that you're getting into advisory services as well. Something too about your model is I think most of your clients, they are on, I don't think you call it a subscription. Is it a retainer? Is it like a monthly agreement? You do 6 month to a year contracts. But they're hiring you to continuously keep up their services. You also help people with cleanups, and I know that can be a ball of yarn that's really tough to untie. But when we're talking about advisory services as well, that's you being able to come in and say, here's what I think the next right thing is for your company.
Exactly.
How do you also, there's this thing that's come up, working on my business versus working in my business, the push and pull of having to do the day-to-day operations. You said in the beginning, when you're a business owner, you have to be marketing, you have to be communications, you got to be PR, you got to be sales, you got to do all these things. But like for you, like how do you work on your business and decide when to work in your business?
One of the things that has been a huge challenge for me has been the aspect of time management. I mean, time management is it is incredibly important. And I do, and I wish I could say that I have arrived. I have not. And one of the things that I am trying right now, because I have heard a lot of other experts talk about it, is the ability to time block. I think as a business owner, if you can time block things, so, Tuesdays are going to be my networking day because that's when my networking meeting is in the morning. There is that request that when you join that you are there on a weekly basis. So showing up every single week, having meetups afterwards if possible. And if I'm not able to right afterwards, having, coffee or something like that in the afternoon. So that time blocking has probably been the biggest thing for me as a business owner, that allows me to work on my business on some days and work in my business on others. I find myself being able to work better in my business at the latter part of the week, and then working on my business at the earlier part. And funny enough, though, I have realized, because I love conversations and coffee with people, to the point where it's like, okay, Emily, you really do need to stop having so many of them throughout the week. They're scattered throughout the week. Let's put it that way. I don't want to stop them, but to have a specific day where I get to connect with people, I get to hear their stories, how they're doing, how their week's been going. That is super, super crucial for me. And so to have that, those life-giving connections, whether it's on that Tuesday or another day that I've specifically singled out for personal responsibilities, then that's when I'll do them. And so, yeah, that's time blocking is basically what I'm working on right now and seeing if that works. And so far, actually, so good. It actually has helped me. I remember feeling super scattered over the summer. I'm a mom of 3 kids. Summer is out. You're trying to run a business and take care of kids. And so, feeling scattered, and now back into that place of like, okay, now I need to have a very specific routine to be able to get everything done, to be able to connect with people, and to work on those SOPs that are just out there.
I think that's one of the things: building processes, building communications. Templates for communication, I think, are huge for businesses, especially like on a monthly basis. What's worked for you as you've developed some SOPs and some processes?
Having a really good recording software. That is probably my biggest thing. One of the things that, I'm still learning. I'm still learning all the technology that we have available, especially with the introduction of AI. And one of the things that is huge that I've recently discovered, wish I'd known about it 3 years ago, but whatever, is the opportunity to, when you're creating an SOP, to be able to have it, you're giving a video tutorial about it, but at the same time, your software is recording you explaining it, and then therefore transcribing it in addition to the video. And so having both auditory and visual representation for that SOP, I think is very helpful for me. I mean, so I'm assuming it's helpful for my contractors, and that's how I'm moving forward with it.
I love it. Like when I asked you about SOPs, I was visualizing like written processes, process maps, and all that. And you took it in this route of like recording software. And when you said recording software, I was like, oh, like software that's really good at documenting like activity and things. But you're like, no, literally recording myself doing the repetitive task or the thing that someone's going to ask a question. I'm trying to standardize it. And by standardizing, you've done time studies on yourself. Like you have literally timed yourself to say, do I even know how much time I'm spending doing this thing? I have a perception of how much time that I'm doing, but how much time am I really doing this? And I mean, we even talked to you about like when you're starting to record stuff, is like, I've not had to think like this in so long.
Yes.
Now I'm having to describe things that are literally secondhand for me. And sometimes too, like as a business owner too, because we're really good at doing this stuff, we're like, what do you mean I got to describe that? How to do well, because you have employees now and they don't think like you. It took you a while to get so good at these things, and you didn't document your own learning process. None of us did. You're scaling your workforce. You need to know how to do it. And it's like, well, guess what? You got to figure, since you can't clone yourself, you got to use technology, right? You mentioned AI too. Like, let's talk about that. I think a common perception with AI is that it's going to kill accounting and it's going to kill bookkeeping.
Yeah.
What's the impact of AI on your field?
I think it's going to, I think it is huge right now, and I think it's going to continue to be huge. And the reason why I say that is we actually, I've heard recently that the accounting industry is actually we don't have a lot of people coming into it. And partially the big reason is for the long hours that you are with your clients' books. Like, you just have a lot of long hours. And you're trying to, figure out these complexities, and it takes forever. Well, AI can come in and take a lot of that out. Like, it just saves you time. The efficiency aspect of accounting is going, I mean, if it hasn't already increased, it's going to. And I have seen it. I've seen efficiency go up in my own business. I've seen efficiency. The CRM that I have right now, just for example, they just added the ability to send receipts directly to your own portal. And through the help of AI on my end of things, I can quickly identify what is needed and how to categorize and look at past history and all the things to be able to then process that document. So the ability to quickly process documents is definitely wonderful. It's wonderful. It is so wonderful to have it. I was scared, absolutely, before, when I heard about it. I think it started to I think it was last year. It was the early last year, actually.
2023.
Yeah. And
February, March.
Yeah, it was around that time. And I remember feeling really nervous about it. And then over the course of the last few months, anytime I hear that something that is going to help my industry and AI is attached to it, I'm like, "Ooh, tell me more." Tell me more. Because I think we could all use, especially with with what I was talking about with time management, anything that can help with that efficiency is really important. I really try to get reports out for my clients for the prior month. So we're in September right now, so I'm trying to get prior reports out. I try to have them out by the 20th. If I'm not able to have them out by the 20th, then, we get them out hopefully by the end of the month. And so, but having AI and having those tools in place to speed up that process has really been helpful for us being able to produce reports earlier. That's for sure.
Absolutely. And I'm a fan of using technology to do technology things and let humans do the human thing. I think, as far as the recording of this episode, I think, people are always going to need to be involved at some level with accounting, because not everything is so clear. I manage the books for my own business for VAS. I also, because the podcast is part of this mechanism. So like everything I do on the podcast is really related to my business in one way or another. And I still do separate certain expenses and things. Like, you taught me a lot of this stuff of like how to keep these things. So if you are finding ways as a business owner in the accounting bookkeeping field to do more of the human things, that is also going to increase your longevity in that business. It's also going to be a great relief. Like you said, there's not too many people coming into the accounting field because of the time and the hours. And, it can be a pretty thankless job too. I mean, when was the last time you saw, the accountants getting the awards in the public business space, right? Like, everybody rewards and honors like the moguls and the chief executives and all that stuff, when like we know the real heroes are the ones who like keep it all going and keep them in a defensible position when the IRS wants to question their records and all that stuff. It's people doing that. All that to boil down and say, like, I love the point you made there. Like, this is actually going to maybe bring more people, and if anything, keep people in the industry, because we need people. We need accounting professionals. So, my gosh, great point.
It's very important. It's very important to partner with the technology. And as a remote bookkeeper, I have no choice but to do that and to appreciate it. And I do. Like, I really do appreciate the systems and software that I'm able to use to be able to help clients. And again, thanks to you, I was able to make sure that I used the ones that I truly needed, and maximized them. And it took out, I took out 10 systems, and now I'm down to like 3,
that is
and
so
I'm,
cool.
and I'm getting, well, thank you. I mean, it would not have been able to do it without your help. So I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. We've kind of covered everything in this conversation. We got, your origin story. I love how you're so authentic with, the struggle sometimes of, wanting to show up. What's the next right thing? We talked about technology. We talked about accounting, everything that's going on in your business, what your clients are dealing with. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you're feeling or that's been inspired over the course of this conversation you want to make sure that our listeners know?
You had mentioned gurus and moguls and everything, and there are so many lessons that we can learn from them. And one of the things that I have appreciated about some of the people who are influencing our culture today are people who are encouraging us to just don't stop, don't quit, keep going. And I think that at the very, if nobody remembers anything that was said today other than this particular point, is that if you feel like you want to stop, or if you feel like you want to, that life is too hard. Being a business owner and living a life is just too hard. The whole work-life balance thing is just out of control. May this be the reminder that you need to keep going. To what do you need to do right now in this moment? Do you need to hire me as a bookkeeper? Do you need to go get marketing? Do you need to partner with Michael on your systems and operations and and do you need somebody to step in and be a coach and say, this is what you do. This is the next thing you need to do. One of my favorite movies this summer that came out is Twisters. And for whatever reason, it's just a very entertaining movie. But the tornado has been very significant because that tornado in a business life signifies chaos and turmoil and frustration and pain and all the things that we face on a daily basis as just human beings. But I feel like it's amplified times 10 when you are trying to run your business. And so what do you need to do to calm the storm, that's going on inside of you? Who do you need to talk to? Who do you need to connect with? Because the number one thing that I have learned is that you cannot do this alone. And as somebody who did it alone for a year and a half, and I was ready to call it quits, and an acquaintance of mine reached out to me at LinkedIn and invited me to the networking group with our mutual friend, Corey. It changed the landscape of my business because I brought people in to this place that I really hadn't brought. I mean, I talked about my business to my friends and family, but bringing people in that are in the trenches with you, maybe they're doing something completely different, but we are dealing with the same emotions and the same problems. So, bringing those people in to just be cheerleaders, to encourage, to say, don't stop, keep going. I know what it's like. I had one of my clients said a while back, because they'd been in business for a really long time. And I remember just being real with them and saying, does this get easier? That was the question. Does it get easier? Do you stop thinking about quitting every single day? And you know what he said? No. He didn't. You don't stop thinking about letting go of your business every single day. Even if you've been in business for 15 to 20 years, maybe some people have. And if so, I would love to connect with you. But when it comes to, but it is something that is just deep within us that is just like, do I keep going? And how? And so that would be my main message, is just don't quit. And if you need to quit for reasons, whatever it is, have somebody in your life to discern that with you. So if it's a spiritual director, if it's a pastor, if it's a therapist, if it's a coach, whatever, a consultant, whoever it is who can help you discern whether or not it is time for you to say goodbye, or if it is just a matter of, hey, you've got to face your fear, you've got to take you've got to take that action, that courageous action to continue to move forward in it, then find those people right now.
Yeah, I needed to hear that. I think everybody listening needed to hear that. Just in response to, like, I am so glad that you found community. If you had not found community, I would not have found community, because, you know, I sat with you my first day in, and I had the name and I was just about to register VAS. And I remember you told me, you said, what are you charging for your consulting calls and stuff? And I gave you just the best answer I could at that time. And you were like, here's what you should actually be charging. And you wrote it down. And I know somewhere it's in my Rocketbook. I took a picture of that. And it was like almost in my early years I just hit a year like 2 months ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you. You know, I know that I will look back on that. I still do. Stephanie looks back on that too. You know, I've had those moments with you and Emily, Phil, Ryan, Cassidy, Zach. I mean, geez, I just named 6 guests that have been on this show because of the community that I found in that group. And, you know, if I hadn't told you this already, like, you were absolutely one of the handful of people that inspired me to actually do this podcast, because my conversations with you, the conversations I saw you were having with others, it was like, gosh, I wish we could record this. And then now I'm getting goosebumps because it's coming to fruition right now. Like, we're recording this. And I love how you have found that it's been so helpful to you as a business owner that now you can't even imagine not doing these meetups and connecting with these people. And who knows where your journey would have been, but I'm glad that you're at where you're at right now, and that you're able to share that. And I love too, like, just a commentary on Silverstone and what I've noticed just outside perspective looking in. You know, look at your time. So like we had our agreement where we were looking at your processes and all that stuff. I know you've gotten help from other folks in terms of the social media, doing video content, like a couple of trailers that you've done for Silverstone, like all that stuff. A lot of it like has come from the network in the group, and that's truly what a tribe of entrepreneurs should look like, right? Is everybody helping and coming alongside. And I know that you've done that for countless groups and people referred by people in the group and all that. You've helped people for a season. You're helping people now. And you're truly doing life and business with these people. And that's the other thing that I will say too, just from my perspective, that I think all business is personal. I don't get this. I get the whole, it's not personal, it's business saying, but it's like, oh my gosh, it is all personal. And I know you and I would agree that it is all spiritual too. It all in the grand scheme of life. What we do echoes into eternity. Like the things you're doing now, you don't know the impact, the growth, the life that's going to give to somebody else down the road. And I know, you know, there's already people that can't even imagine their life without Silverstone and without you in it. And, you know, we'll look out for your book to come out one day.
You're funny. Thank you.
I know. Well, God's funny too, because he's given you a lot of things that you would have never expected. Right. And myself too. So anyway, Emily, my friend, it has been so good connecting with you. Anything else you want to kind of sign off with? Final last words for our listeners?
You know, honestly, what's going through my head right now is that song that says, "Don't Stop Believin'."
Journey.
Thank you.
Let's go.
Yeah. So just don't stop believing. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing, I think, you know, I may not know the listener personally, but I know that they are listening for a reason. You don't listen to a business podcast with business owners if you weren't trying to find something that could help you or motivate you or inspire you. And so I hope this conversation, just inspires people to, can just keep going. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Emily Linhardt from Silverstone Financial Solutions, I appreciate you. Everybody, as usual, we have all of the links for our guests are in the show notes on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. Please go follow and engage with her on her socials. And for us, your follows, your shares, your ratings, all those things help us as a podcast. Thank you so much for listening today. We hope that you were blessed by this conversation.